Have you ever been really listened to? Have you ever been in conversation with somebody where you felt really listened to? How's that made you feel? Because for me, it's made me feel just great. It's made me feel really valued. And that's the sort of impact that you can have on people by really listening to them. It's a gift that you can give people. We all have the ability to listen, and we're all born with the ability to listen, but over time, it's not necessarily a skill that we've developed effectively. If you want to be a top communicator, if you want to be a top salesperson, if you want to be a coach, then you've got to have great listening skills. And you've got to develop those listening skills deliberately. So, working on our 3-step success formula of creating awareness so that it gives you choices so that you can make change, I'm going to give you some kind of awareness of the different levels of listening so that you can identify during conversations what type of listening you're honouring people with and develop your listening skills from there. So the first level of listening is called cosmetic listening. And we'll all be familiar with this level because it's when let's say you're in conversation with somebody, or more like they're talking to you, and you're kind of thinking, they're just talking at me. They're talking at me, and really, I'm not interested in this conversation so much because they don't need me to be interested because they're just talking at me. You might find this sometimes with young children. They'll just tell stories. And so, if you're listening or half listening, you might be listening to the story and going, yeah, all right, yeah, okay, right, yeah. And just letting them talk. And that kind of listening's okay. It's very cosmetic. It's on the surface. You're not really listening. And if somebody said, what did I just say? And some people have said that to me in the past and called me out. But if they said, what did I just say? Then you wouldn't have much of a clue. You might be able to reel off some kind of answer, but you wouldn't have much of a clue. That's cosmetic listening. And certainly in sales, if you're a coach, then that type of listening is no good at all. The second type of listening is called conversational listening. And conversational listening, again, is something that we'll all be familiar with, and it might well be your deepest level of listening. It might be a habit that you've got into of allowing it to be your deepest level of listening. Conversational listening is really, it's kind of tit for tat. It's, let me tell you a little bit about what's going on in my life, and then allow you to tell a little bit about what's going on in your life. So it's me talking and it's you talking. I'm listening to what you're saying, and I'm probably also thinking about what I'm going to be saying next. Again, that's fine in conversation, and it can be really great fun. If you're in a coaching relationship, if you're managing people and you're using that kind of listening skills in a meeting, or in a one-to-one, or in a performance review meeting, then that's just not going to cut it. You need to be getting deeper. And so the third level of listening is called active listening. Active listening is when you're really listening to somebody, you're really concentrating on what that other person's saying. You're really concentrating on discovering more about that person, more about the thoughts behind what they're actually saying. You're not concerned, and this is the difference between this and conversational listening, you're not concerned with listening and at the same time formulating your own answers. You're listening intently to what they're actually saying, how it's making them feel, how they're feeling inside, and implications for them, and discovering more. People, when you're talking to people, people will always give you a surface level answer, if you like, a surface level opinion, a surface level scenario. It's what's the result of what they're thinking. They won't necessarily offer you exactly what they're thinking. And so by listening, you're able to formulate questions that discover the deeper aspects of their thoughts. And that's what active listening can do for you. So this is great for working in sales. In sales, you're really going to want to understand what's important to people about the scenario that you're talking about. You're going to need to know what their deep down thoughts are, and not just what their surface thoughts are. So really listen to them, ask them questions, and think more about what's going on inside of them than what's going on inside of you. The fourth level of listening is called deep listening. And deep listening is building on the active listening. Deep listening is saying, okay, I'm listening intently to what you're saying. I'm also watching what's going on inside you. I'm watching what's going on with your facial expressions. I'm watching what's going on with your breathing. I'm really trying to be you in a conversation. And this is the type of skill that top coaches have. This is the type of skill that every coach can get with practice. And this is the type of skill that if you can really try and get inside the other person's head, really try and ask the questions in order to get inside the other person's head. Make sure that they're doing 90% of the talking. You're just doing the listening. And you're watching the body movements, you're listening to what you're saying, and you're really trying to discover, not necessarily just listening to the words that are coming out, but what does that actually mean for that person? That's deep listening, and that's a skill that you can build. And the way to build these skills is to practice. So when you're in conversation with somebody, just notice how you're listening. Maybe after the conversation, just review how you listened. How much of your listening was enabling you to develop your own thoughts, and how much of it was how much of your conversation were you giving your opinion to the other person? How much were you really listening and trying to discover about them? That's what listening's all about.